Great people, people who build great things, they have the ability to think about the vision, and that's what gets them through the hard times. But then what they don't do is they don't just sit in this imaginary land of everything's going to be great one day. They think to themselves, all right, everything is going to be great one day, but I got to work my land right now. I got to do what I got to do right now. Today, we're going to be talking about building something great. And I want to talk about it from a unique perspective. I'm not going to go over the same cliche things that you hear all the time. We know we got to work hard. We know we got to work on our mental. We know all of these things. But when it comes to, our podcast and the YouTubes that we put out, my goal is always to bring you things that you don't hear all the time. So that way you can look at things from a fresh, new perspective versus just getting the same repetitive information each and every single day. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't want to just be one of those people that's constantly putting out the same stuff that everyone else is saying. I focus on being the type of person that's going to give you guys things that you're not hearing all the time and try to take a unique perspective, because when it does come to building something great, there are a lot of things that go into that. We know we got to work hard. We know we got to work on our mental. We know we got to hire the right people. There's so many different things that go into building something great. I want to look at things from a different perspective that I truly think will make a massive difference in your career, in your business, and your ability to grow and scale. So let's talk about the first one. People who build great things, they operate from this optimistic reality. Let me say that one more time. They operate from this optimistic reality. They operate with a level of optimism where they think big, they think positive, they think about all the things that are going to go right. They think about the vision, they think about the goals. They have this belief that everything's going to work out in their favor. They have this belief that the world is rigged to help them win. Let me say that one more time. People who succeed in business operate with this belief that the world is rigged in their favor. You ever see a sports game and you're like, you know what? That game was rigged. That game was rigged. They called all the plays. They called every foul in the direction of this one team. They called every play in the direction of this one team. Everything just seemed like it favored one team over the other. Well, I want that to happen for me. I want to feel like I'm living in a world where everything is rigged in my favor. That's the optimistic side of things. Everything's going to go great. We'll figure out how to do it. I may not know the how just yet, but we'll figure out how. I know for a fact this is where we're going. We're going to get it done. I have this optimistic belief that everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be amazing. I have that optimistic belief. But here's where most people drop the ball. They don't operate with the level of realism. They don't operate with a level of looking at things from a realistic perspective. So now they're super optimistic, but they're shooting from the hip and they have no definite plan, no definite purpose, no definite strategy on how they're going to make that goal, make that dream a reality. And so one thing that I've realized about the most successful people is, once again, they operate from this optimistic realism where they're optimistic about where they're going, but they are real with themselves. They operate with this high level of being realistic with what's actually required to hit the goal and accomplish the target. Very important. Nothing wrong with having a big dream, but you got to be real about the work that's required to get it. Nothing wrong with having a big dream, but you got to be real about the amount of phone calls you got to make, the amount of appointments you got to do, the amount of people you got to talk to. You got to be real about how much money you might need to invest. You got to be real when it comes to the strategy, because if we're operating from delusion versus objective reality, what's going to happen is we're going to have all these goals, all these dreams, all these desires, and we're never going to hit any of them because we are not being real about what's required and actually to get it. That's like me looking at my car. And let's say my car gets 20 miles to the gallon, and I got to go 100 miles and I got 1 gallon in my car. Well, that means that based off the amount of gallons I have in my car, I'm only going to get 20 miles. I'm going to be 80 miles short. So if I'm operating with delusion where I'm saying, oh, there's enough gas in the tank or everything will work out, that's delusion. I don't have enough gas in the tank to get from where I am to where I want to be. So the realism, the realistic side of me, the objective reality is, how much gas do we need to get from point A to point B? And I got to be real about that. Because if I'm lying to myself, I'm lying to other people, and I'm operating from delusion, there's going to be a lot of goals, a lot of dreams that I never hit, and that is not good. So yes, be optimistic, have big goals, have big dreams, operate with this belief that everything's rigged in your favor, everything's going to go great, everything's going to work out, and everything's going to work out fantastic. Have that belief. But we also got to operate with realism to make sure that we do the work that's required. And as long as you are okay with the work that's required and you're okay with what's going to be required in order to hit the target, well, then guess what? You're going to be on track to hit the target, and you're going to be on track to build something great, build something big. Now let's talk about number two. Number two is people who build something great have this ability to see around the corner, meaning they're always seeing around the corner with what could go wrong. And I know it's not a positive thing, but it's just the reality, right? When it comes to business, there's gonna be a lot of things that go wrong, and it's gonna be your ability to anticipate, see around the corner of what's to come, what could be good, what could be bad. Our ability to see around the corner is gonna determine how much success that we have when it comes to building something big, building something great. You know, there's a guy in my organization, and he's crushing it in sales. He had his best month ever. And I called him, I said, brother, I'm so proud of you for having your best month ever. But what I need you to do, and what I want to encourage you to do, is see around the corner. Everything's great when things are going great. But can you anticipate what will go wrong? Be proactive about it so that way it doesn't actually happen. You know, the most successful people in the world, they are anticipating what could go wrong, and then they take the action steps now, and they are proactive about putting things in place so what could go wrong doesn't go wrong. This is called calculated risks, where yes, there's a risk in anything that you do. There's a risk in investments, there's a risk in business. But the reason it becomes a calculated risk is because great people see around the corner, they look at what the risk is, and they put everything in place necessary in order to minimize that risk to almost ensure and guarantee an outcome. So most people look at it as a risk. But if you see around the corner, you anticipate everything that could go wrong, you put everything in place to keep anything from going wrong. Now, all of a sudden, there's a high likelihood that you're going to hit the target. And now what was a risk no longer seems like a risk. So if you want to build something great, we can't just operate in a world of dandelions and rainbows and cotton candy and sunshine. We got to know that things will go wrong. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if we can anticipate what will go wrong, when it will go wrong, and we can be proactive about making sure things don't go wrong, now all of a sudden, right, we're going to stay on track, and we're not going to experience as many hiccups and or hurdles in the business that we are trying to build. Number three, think in the future, but execute in the present. You know, when it comes to trying to get a business off the ground, there is a lot of hard times. There's things that you're not going to want to do. There's going to be hard times that you fall on. It's just part of business. And not only is it a part of business, it's a part of life. And so somebody asked me the other day, they said, Matt, how do you stay fired up and excited even in the hard times, even when everything's not going well? How do you do that? And my response was, you got to think in the future, but you got to execute in the present. Meaning that in hard times, it's hard to be excited, right? That's why they call it hard times, because it's hard to do anything. It's hard to be excited. It's hard to be positive. It's hard to look at the bright side of things. Everything's going wrong at that moment. Well, in those moments, it's our ability to keep our eye on the goal, our eye on the target, the eye on the dream, the eye on the vision of what it is that you're building. You got to think about what your future is going to look like on the other side of this hard time. And it's you knowing that on the other side of this hard time is everything that you could ever imagine. That's what keeps you excited. That's what keeps you fired up. That's what keeps you going. Like when you are on a hike and you're climbing up this hike, you're literally climbing up a mountain, you're tired, you're beat, you're exhausted, you're sweating, you're in the hot sun, and you're thinking to yourself, why in the world am I doing this right now? But you think about the outcome. Number one, right? This is good for me, right? This is a healthy thing to do. I'm going to feel better about myself at the end of this hike. But number two is typically at the end of a hike is an incredible view, a miraculous view, which is what makes it a famous hike or a hike that anyone wants to do. They're willing to go through a hard time because they know that at the end of that hard time is a beautiful view, incredible scenery, and everything that they can imagine when it comes to beauty. Well, guess what? It's the same thing in business. If we can keep our mind on where we're going, what we're building, the future, how great it's going to be, how amazing it's going to be, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, how happy you're going to be, how much bliss you're going to experience, how great it's going to be on the other side of the hard work. Now, all of a sudden, the hard work becomes easier. The hard time becomes easier to endure because you're thinking about where you're going. You're thinking about how great it's going to be. Great people, people who build great things, they have that ability. They have the ability to think about the vision, to think about the dream, and that's what gets them through the hard times. But then what they don't do is they don't just sit in this imaginary land of everything's going to be great one day. They think to themselves, all right, everything is going to be great one day, but I got to work my land right now. I got to do what I got to do right now. That's what I mean by we got to think in the future, but we got to execute in the present. So yeah, this is the dream that I want to have. But what do I got to do right now to get me through this hard time? What do I got to do right now in order to get me to that dream, to get me to where I want to be? And once again, if I'm operating from delusion, this goes back to the optimistic realism. If I'm operating up with delusion on what it's going to take to get there, I'm never going to get there. So in order to stay excited, fired up, and get through those hard times, we got to be thinking in the future, but we got to be executing in the present. And then last but not least, number 4, we can't mistake the beginning for the end. This is something that I see all the time, where people start to get some momentum. They start to make more money than they've ever made before. Things are going right. Everything's fantastic. And they mistake the beginning for the end, and they stop doing the work necessary that generated the momentum in the first place. If you want to build something great, it's going to come down to your ability to execute and put your foot on the gas and go harder than you've ever gone before when things are amazing, when you do have momentum. Most people establish momentum. They stop doing the things that generated the momentum to begin with. They lose that momentum and they spend the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months trying to get that momentum back. What if when you catch momentum, you double down, you triple down, and you allow that momentum to catapult you into a new level of momentum, a new level of business? That's what the greats do. The greats know that momentum is jealous. Momentum is jealous. And that momentum is going to go to anyone that treats it with the value and the respect that it deserves. Think about it like this. If your husband didn't treat you with respect, are you going to stay around? If your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend didn't treat you with respect, are you going to stay around? No. So if you don't respect momentum, then momentum is not going to stay around. It's going to go find someone that values it. It's going to go find someone that values it. And so we have to realize that if momentum is jealous, I got to continue to date momentum every single day. What do the strongest relationships have in common? That the honeymoon phase never goes away because every single day they are working on falling more in love with the other person. Every single day they're focusing on dating their wife, dating their husband. I don't know about you, but for me, I date my wife every week. Every week we go out on different dates. We try to experience new things together. We invest time and energy into cultivating our relationship and strengthening it. Our relationship is better right now than it was 4 years ago. I feel like we are still living in the honeymoon phase. Why? Because we are investing into our relationship day in and day out. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to momentum. If you are not investing into that relationship, doing what was required to generate the momentum in the first place, doing what was required to generate the relationship in the first place. If we don't do those things, momentum is going to go find somebody who values it, and you're going to lose it, and you're going to regret it, and you're going to wish that you did what was required to keep it. So never mistake the beginning for the end. Don't get comfortable. Don't rest on your laurels. Do the work that's required day in and day out. Execute, and it's going to be your ability to work your butt off even when things are perfect. That's going to determine whether or not they stay perfect. Don't get comfortable. If we can do this, we're going to start to build something big. So hey, if you got something out of today's content, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. This podcast, YouTube, everything that we put out, we don't make any money from this. It actually costs us money, but we just have so many people that are constantly reaching out for this value. We just do this because we want to make a difference. We want to help. All we ask is that if you ever do get something out of the message, that you share it with a friend. So if you got something out of today, tell somebody about it. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next week on the Leaders Only Podcast.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it.